Good evening, everyone, and good morning to those of you in New Zealand. Good afternoon to those of you in parts of the world where it is still afternoon, and good evening to those of you in Africa, because as you're possibly aware, those of you who know me, my name is Andrew Kerr. I'm the licensed advisor for Network Migration Services and the owner of Network Migration Services, and I am based in South Africa. Just a little bit of history on myself and the company. For those of you who haven't heard of us before, some of you will be listening to the webinar for the first time. Some of you may be listening to the 10th time. Anyway, as I said, Andrew Kerr, I'm a Kiwi, born and bred. I'm very proud of my home country, although I haven't lived there for 30 years, but my daughter's there at the moment. My son's soon to be going over there to join her. So I'm a proud Kiwi. I lived in New Zealand for plus minus 20 years, and then I moved to Australia, and I lived in Australia for about 10 years. And then I had an opportunity to come to South Africa in 1990, working for a separate organisation, not an immigration, Macmillan Publishing, actually. And then I came over for 2 years. My contract ran out, and there was a job opportunity with Network Migration Services back in 1993. So I took the job, and lo and behold, I'm still here. And in 1996, I had an opportunity to purchase the business, so I did. So we are quite literally the one-stop shop. We have about 25 team members that work within the organisation in 2 or 3 different countries. We have most of our team members are based in South Africa. 2 or 3 of them are working remotely. We have one of our senior consultants working in the UK. And also we have one of our senior people working also in Zimbabwe, and a team in New Zealand, which is run by our New Zealand MD, Peter Lemmer, who I see has just joined. Thank you, Ruan. Just a couple of house cleaning to get out of the way. Ruan, who's just joined the webinar tonight, creates these for us. We do them every 3 weeks, normally on a Wednesday night at 8 p.m. SA time. So for those of you who, of course, want to let your friends know, just let them know. It's normally every 3rd Wednesday at 8 p.m. SA time. Peter very kindly has joined us from New Zealand at 6 a.m. in the morning over there, or 2 minutes past 6 because of daylight saving. It's not in at the moment. So it's normally 11 hours difference. It's at the moment 10. So welcome, Peter. I'm going to be inviting Peter into this conversation in about 5 to 10 minutes. Welcome to Liz. Liz Filion is our HR manager and also one of our senior consultants, and also becoming a licensed advisor over the next few months and years. And hi, Tia Marie. I see you've joined us as well. Tia Marie is one of our senior consultants and has also joined us, and she's based in our Johannesburg office, and she is also in the next 2 or 3 years moving towards getting her licensed as an advisor. Tonight, we're going to knock it out in about 45 minutes. I say that all the time, and it ends up being about 55 minutes, but I'm going to do it just slightly differently tonight. I was trying to calculate. I've been in this business for 30 years. I've helped 15,000 families immigrate into Australia and New Zealand. So I'm very proud of what we've achieved. We take dealing with you and your lives extremely seriously. You're not buying an item like a piece of furniture or a car. This is your life we're talking about here. And we are quite literally the one-stop shop. You'll see on the first page my MARA registration and my IA license in number. And frankly, if you're going to deal with a immigration consultant, please make sure they're licensed. And just a small example on that, I had 3 consults today, literally Zoom consults and 1 face-to-face. And every one of these particular clients, well, they were not our clients yet, but families, was using another agent. I'm not going to mention other names. Everybody has their own business model as to what they do and how they do it. But over the years that we've been involved in this business, we've decided to become literally the one-stop shop. We partner, as you can see on the first page, with people from, selling your home to selling a car, to shifting funds, to doing English tests, to taking advice on mortgages, and with the banks, and of course, with the moving companies, with flight companies, with animal pet travel companies, etc. So we literally have all those partners on board and are continuing to grow that. The process itself fluctuates between the 2 countries. I'm going to be jumping on that in a few minutes or so. You'll see also I'm a member of the New Zealand Association for Migration and Investment and the Migration Institute of Australia. These are institutions and bodies that just keep us up to date with what's happening in the ever-changing world of migration, especially, of course, in New Zealand at the moment with potential government elections coming up, government elections coming up in October. There's a little bit of uncertainty as to perhaps what's going to be happening moving forward. And what we try and do is we clarify that for you. If you do engage our services, we're with you for as long as this takes, whether it takes 2 months or it takes 5 years. We are holding your hand through the entire process from beginning to end. Of our 25 colleagues, of course, we have certain divisions. One is the relocation division, which, as I said, it helps with everything to do with, pets and money and banks and blah, blah, blah. The other one is our job search division, which Peter Lemmer is in charge of. I'll be bringing in Peter. Job search training division, I should say. I'll be bringing Peter in shortly to talk about how that works. And the other one is, of course, quite simply the visa division, the one that, prepares and submits and lodges all your visa applications. People always ask me, what's our success rate? It's 99.9% out of the last 30 years. We don't fail on applications unless, of course, there's things that are untoward. Although, frankly, we should know everything about you up front, unless, of course, and God willing, this doesn't happen, but you have a medical condition that would stop you immigrating, which would have to be pretty severe. So clearly, if you have a couple of issues like that, like a medical condition or maybe even a criminal record, a minor criminal charge, or even possibly a major criminal charge from years ago, etc., you need to tell me about it. It's everything you talk about with me is private. You're covered, of course, by the Privacy Act and the fact that I'm a registered agent. And I was just talking about the 3 consults I had today with individuals and clients that are unhappy with the agents they're using. And the reason they're unhappy is because they didn't get everything up front. They didn't know what they were purchasing and buying and paying for up front. So please, ladies and gentlemen, before you pay, the old terminology is a brass razoo, but I don't know how old some of you people are, but before you pay your hard-earned money to an agency or agent to help you with this process, please understand what they're going to do for you. Is it just the paperwork, for example? Is it just you giving documents and then submitting the documents? If you're in a job which requires registration, like electricians, teachers, plumbers, etc., does the agency that you're going to deal with help you with the registration process? We do, but most of the other agencies don't, for example. Does the agency, especially for New Zealand, although our job search training is the same for Australia, but does the agency take care and effort and put in the time and the resources to help you find that extremely important job offer when it comes to immigrating to New Zealand? I know pretty much every other agency out there. We do not know any one agency out there that, of course, does what we do. And I'm not just saying that. It's just part of the way we've developed this process over the last, 30 years, especially in the last 6-7 years that Peter's been in New Zealand. He's developed this process of job training that is extremely successful. So, that's a little bit of a summary on us, making sure you use a licensed agent, making sure you, of course, what you're getting your money for. And of course, also making sure that, you're very transparent with your agent. You tell them everything about you because they're going to need to know. If they're going to successfully immigrate you into these countries, then they're going to need to know, all about you and your family and your children and spouses, et cetera, et cetera. The other thing that you need to know, of course, is this is not a cheap exercise. I mean, you're immigrating. I mean, if you're moving house within your own country, that even if you're not buying a new property, you're still moving. I mean, you've got to move, and it's not a cheap exercise moving from country to country. Also, if you're coming from a country where, of course, you're using a euro or a pound or a dollar, then, this is not going to sound as expensive as if you're coming from a country where you're using a rand, for example. Because let's face it, those of us who are living in this beautiful country of ours in South Africa, the rand has gone for a ball of chalk. I mean, 3 months ago, it was 9.15, 9.20 to the New Zealand dollar, giving you an example. It's currently sitting at around 12. When you're talking about this costing you thousands of dollars, and you're coming from a country where, of course, your currency is quite weak, then you've just got to understand that and, quite frankly, deal with it. because you just got no alternatives. And, you know, in South Africa, we all know we're going through load shedding. In fact, I was going to be doing this webinar from the office. But the office is load shedding at the moment, and I didn't want to risk the inverter in there was down to 3 bars anyway, so I've come home to do it. And I actually prefer doing them from home anyway, although we are not load shedding at home, although we also have an inverter. For those of you who don't know what load shedding is, just Google it. I'm sure most of the world now knows what's happening in Africa. We're losing our power for between 6 to 12 hours a day, every day. And it will continue to happen for probably the next 3 to 5 years. So, yeah, we're not in a great space over here business-wise in South Africa when it comes to your business owners out there that are struggling, especially those who, you know, who are having to pay for things like diesels and power generators and inverters and all this type of stuff. Anyway, so if you want to be assessed, and I'm going to go through quite quickly, I'm going to go through the processes for Australia, and then we're going to touch on New Zealand as well. If you want to be assessed, guys, I just see some of you are buffeting. Ruan, if you can, okay, there you already have. It should resolve. I've got full power in the house, and we shouldn't be buffeting from here. But of course, you will be getting this webinar tomorrow. I don't know, Liz, if you're seeing buffeting, or Tia Marie, if you're seeing buffeting, maybe you could comment, or even Peter, that you're getting it fine, because otherwise we may have a little bit of an issue. But anyway, so if you want to be assessed, all our consultations, all the information I give you from the get-go is free. The only time you start paying monies is if you engage our services. So if you want to find something out about migration, and I really don't care what it is, I've been doing it for 30 years, I should know the answer to most of your questions, if not all of them. And if I don't, I have an outstanding group of people that work with Network or for Network that if they don't know, we will research and find out for you. So, okay, thanks, Tia Marie. Not great, I suppose. I'll just talk maybe a little slower. But maybe I'll just talk about, you know, the nitty gritty tonight. So, and Liz is also load shedding. Right. Okay. So interesting night tonight, guys. The recordings will be sent to you tomorrow. If you are struggling with this, it will be sent to you tomorrow. I just need to do something which may be affecting this. So please just give me 30 seconds. Are you streaming a movie? Are you watching it on the internet? Yeah. Stop. Sorry, I'm really sorry. Okay, there was just another device actually streaming a movie here, so maybe that, hopefully it will fix in the next couple of minutes, because my lovely wife Rose has now stopped watching what she was watching. She's actually sitting outside underneath the heater watching a movie. Anyway, so send me your CVs. Send me the information on your family. Like, I'm a family of 4. I'm 42. My wife's 38. And we have, you know, a 6-year-old and a 10-year-old, because I need to know the structures of your family. I need to know, of course, you know, the ages of the main applicants in the family and the children, because I need to know what type of visa we're doing for the children. Is it early childhood, you know, under 5, for example? Is it schooling, student visas? Are they over 18, 19, where we're doing visitors visas for, etc.? So I need to know this information. I don't need you to write it on your CVs. And frankly, at the moment, I don't care what the CVs look like. I need your basic processes, who you are, what you do, if you have any qualifications at all, and how long you've been doing it. All righty. So let's just move on to about Network. We've talked about. I'm going to do Australia now. It's literally going to be 5 minutes on Australia. New Zealand next, and we'll just talk a little bit at the end about relocation. If you do have any questions, it looks like everybody is buffeting a bit. Sorry, but hopefully it has fixed itself. Ruan, I'm not really sure what we're going to do about the buffeting, but it seems to be everybody is. But are you all hopefully slowly understanding what I'm talking about if I go slow? We've talked about Network. That's me a couple of years ago. Australia. Right. Australia, for those of you who have been there, is beautiful. It's also massive. Thanks, Rondo. Thanks, Tia Marie, for putting my email address up. It's extremely diverse Australia. I mean, Sydney is completely not like Perth, and Perth is not like Brisbane, and the state of Northern Territory is not like the state of South Australia. There are 8 states and territories in Australia. Now, there is not a visa that we do not do. It doesn't matter, be it investor, skilled migrant, family, work, student, visitors, job search visa if you're going over to look for a job. Thank you, guys. Hopefully it is better. So Rose can stop watching her movie. Anyway, so that's good. So, but clearly to talk about how you sponsor, if you're an Australian citizen, how do you sponsor in your partner? Or if you're a business owner that, you're running a business which is turning over a few $1 million or rands or whatever, how do you use that to get into Australia or New Zealand, etc.? They're really quite complicated to talk to en masse. So if you are a business owner or a student or you want to sponsor one of your family members in because you already hold the passport of Australia and New Zealand, please contact me on andrew@networkmigration.com. Always give me your contact details. I mean, it'll come from your email, but if you don't have a phone number on there, give me a phone number as well, because, I like talking to people. I like bringing them up to speed. Most of what we do is done through email, but clearly if it's a quick question, I can answer it instantaneously. So we're going to be basically or mainly talking about, thanks to Muka, we're mainly going to be talking about skilled migrant tonight. Okay, so let's just jump into this, and I want you to take a screenshot of this page, please. And in 1 minute, I'm going to show the next page. I'm not going to delve too much into them, but I'm going to give you a summary on Australia. Firstly, if you're going to do a skills-based visa into Australia, you need to be under 45 years old. That's the main kicker. All right, New Zealand is 56, under 56, but Australia is under 45. You'll see on the top left there, your age points are there. And this is at the time that you are selected. And when you are selected for residency, you pay them a processing fee. And when you pay them that processing fee, your age will freeze. Even though once you're selected and paid, the process could still take another 6 months. Your age will actually freeze. So if you have what we call a critical birthday coming up, then frankly, get on with this. You get your points for your qualifications on the right-hand side, as you can see, doctorate, bachelor's, diploma. And Australia, in 95% of cases, you are going to require a qualification if you're going as a skilled migrant. There are only 2 assessing authorities in Australia. There's over 30 of them, but there are only 2 that will assess you based on your work experience. One is the Computer Society. So if you're in IT, you might have a chance of getting in without a qualification. And also if you're a senior manager, the Institute of Management and Leadership will also assess you based on your ability to manage people and how senior you are and how you got there, etc. But other than those 2 assessing authorities, every other assessing authority will require you to have a qualification which is recognised by the Australian authority. Thirdly, English. It's going to be compulsory for Australia. There you'll see for competent, proficient, and superior, the points you get. And you might be sitting in Canada at the moment. I have clients in Canada. You might be sitting in the UK, Ireland. I mean, these are countries I've got clients in. We've got clients in all over the world, and thinking, yippee, I don't have to do the English test because I hold one of those passports. Well, you're quite right. You're not forced to do the English test at all. But you get exempt from English, but you don't get the points. And you might just need the points. So you still might have to do the English test even if you come from a country where you are exempt from the English test requirement for the Department of Home Affairs in Australia. Points for skilled work, it's on the right-hand side there. It must be post-qualification and it must be related to your qualification and or work experience, of course. Well, as I said, most of you need a qualification. So they are the points for the qualification. So when I score you, in the first document I send you back for Australia or New Zealand, I'm going to send you your pathway to residency. What is it? What do you score? How do you score those points? How do you get your qualifications assessed? How much does that cost? How much is an English test? And are you going in on one of the 3 main skilled migrant visas we're talking about? And they're over on the left at the bottom here. You've got a 189, which is what I call the blue chip visa. And if you're going in on a 189, subclass 189 visa, you need to be on the medium and long-term strategic skills shortage list. And that has about, gosh, I haven't counted lately, but probably about 180 odd occupations on it. Hey, Charlie. And then we are in a situation where you've got the 190. By the way, there we are. Take a screenshot of that page as well, guys. A 190 is state nominated. You'll see here. You get points. There are 8 states and territories in Australia. And if your occupation is on their skills list and they are in the process of being allocated nomination numbers by federal government and you're nominated on a 190, it's still permanent residency. However, you sign a declaration that says you're happy to live and work in that sponsoring state for 2 years, even though it is permanent residency up front. And a brand new visa that came out just prior to COVID in November 2019 is called a subclass 491, where you get 15 bonus points for it. And the 491 is a visa that's issued to you for 5 years. You still get free schooling and healthcare on this visa, but you've got a year to take it up. And once you've got the visa granted, you are living in Australia and you can live anywhere in Australia except Sydney, Brisbane, and Melbourne. You cannot live in those 3 areas, all right, for the first 3 years. So there's a caveat on the 491. And when I send you your pathways, clearly I will put that in the processes as well. Now, when you come on board, Australia would normally take somewhere between 9 to 15 months, the whole process, unless you're a teacher or a healthcare worker. Because if you're a teacher or a healthcare worker, you're literally being processed in a month at the moment. And that's your skills assessments included. Normally, a teaching council skills assessment takes 6 to 8 weeks. At the moment, they're taking a week. And then when we load an application for a teacher to Australia, the system selects you automatically. Whereas normally you'd be loaded into the system and wait anywhere between 1 month to 2 years to be selected if you're selected. Okay. But very recently, federal government in Australia, Department of Home Affairs, were instructed by federal government that any educational people with the right qualifications, of course, and healthcare workers, again, with the right qualifications, must be processed immediately by DHA. So that's good if you're a teacher or you're a healthcare worker. It means that, quite frankly, you could be in Australia in the next 3 months. I know that's extremely fast. You could do that in New Zealand as well, by the way. But so just be prepared for it. When you get your visas for Australia, normally, as I said previously, rather than those occupations will take 9 to 15 months, somewhere in that bracket, for the whole process to be until you've got your visas. And step 1, if you come on board, you're sent a starter pack, both for Australia and New Zealand, which is subject to, of course, specific to you and your qualifications, etc. And your file manager who's allocated to your file will always be your main point of contact through me. And you'll start giving us documents straight away. So the starter pack is going to be specific. It's going to say, what do we want from you in order for each stage of this process to be successful? So clearly the starter pack is very specific to your qualifications and or ages and or family structures, etc., etc. So, as I said, bar teachers and healthcare workers, when you're granted a visa for Australia on a 189 and a 190, you have a 5-year window to take up residency. But if you're not going to take up residency within the first 12 months, you must validate that visa within the first 12 months by entering Australia. And if it's 491, as I've already mentioned, you've got roughly a year to go. You've got to get there within the first year. The other thing I'd like to mention is 65 points is a little bit misleading. Okay, now 6 in the sense that, giving you an example, every 3 months the federal government selects, and they selected in January, in April, and the next one's end of July, and then September, etc. Every state by federal government is given an allocation depending on the size of the state by federal government. Australia takes upwards of 150 to 200,000 people a year. And I have heard recently they're looking at taking nearly 400,000 in their next intake year, which starts in July 1st. And remember, you cannot load an application without your English results and without your skills being assessed. And that process, unless you're a teacher or healthcare worker, is normally taking around 3 months, sometimes longer, depending on your assessing authority. When we load an application, we're loading it into a pooling system. It's called Skills Select, and you're going to wait to be selected. And this is where it's a little bit misleading. I mean, for example, a motor mechanic last selection was selected on 65, whereas a software engineer was selected on 85. So it's a little bit misleading. You might think, oh, gosh, I fly in because I'm sitting on 70 and you're a software engineer, and you're wondering why you're not being selected. So they fluctuate the selection criteria based on your occupational codes. which are called ANSCO codes. We're going to be talking about that a little bit more when we do New Zealand, but it basically stands for Australia, New Zealand Standard Classification of your occupation. Okay, so if you qualify for Australia, I'll be telling you. I had another client today which was doing Australia and literally sitting in the pooling system and wondering why they're not being selected while they're only sitting on 65 points and they're in an occupation. Well, I'll be open, they're an accountant. An accountant hasn't been selected on less than 80 points in the last 4 or 5 years. So you need to be aware. And again, this is what I'm talking about using an agent. Make sure you know where you're going and you understand. I said to the client today, I said, well, listen, you could always switch to New Zealand because clearly we can get that client into New Zealand. So just wait and see. So it's a huge advantage being licensed for both countries because clearly if you paid us your hard-earned money for Australia and it didn't work, then you'd pay us a nominal fee just to switch it over to New Zealand. And as long as you're under 56, New Zealand's going to work because it's based on a job offer as long as you're prepared to work with us to get one. So let's jump into New Zealand, land of the long white cloud, Aotearoa. Right, hopefully the winners of the World Cup this year, but I'm not counting on it. Anyway, so I'm going to be inviting Peter in very soon, but I just to talk about our job search, because if you're going to get into New Zealand on a skilled migrant application, all of you need a job offer. All of you. Well, I'm going to say all of you. I mean, the main applicant needs a job offer. It's as simple as that. Okay, and I'm going to talk about New Zealand visa and point system. Everybody knows this, using Google Earth, whatever. It's one of the prettiest countries on the planet. Again, we do every type of visa under the sun for New Zealand. It doesn't matter. And a very special one that we're extremely good at is you traveling to New Zealand to job hunt. I get a lot of inquiries about, can I just do a visitor's visa? And I always ask them, why are you going? And they're saying to job hunt. Well, you better be extremely careful if you're going to New Zealand to job hunt and you're applying, because you need to tell them up front, I'm coming to your country to job hunt. And therefore, the documentation requirements are way more than if you were just going on a genuine holiday. So be extremely careful if you're wanting to do a visitor's visa into New Zealand to job hunt, that you do it properly, because you don't want a rejection. Okay. Again, well, there it is, visitor's visa for job search. But let's just listen to this. It's a 1.5 minute talk by Immigration New Zealand about the new accredited employers visa, which came out in July last year.
Where no New Zealanders are available for a job, employers can hire a skilled migrant worker using the Accredited Employer Work Visa, or AEWV. Before inviting a migrant to apply for an AEWV, employers must become accredited with Immigration New Zealand and complete a job check for the role they want to fill. This means migrant workers can have more confidence about the role they're coming to New Zealand for. To gain accreditation, an employer must be a genuine business in a good financial position and have no recent history of breaching employment or immigration law or business standards. The job check confirms that the job pays the market rate, and the terms and conditions of the contract comply with New Zealand's employment standards. Before applying for a job check, employers need to advertise most roles to prove there are no New Zealand citizens or residents available for the job. After an employer's job check has been approved, you will be sent an email containing a link and a job check token. This means you can access the online portal and apply for your visa. The application process is all done online, where you will fill in your details and upload supporting documentation. Immigration New Zealand will check if you meet the requirements for the AEWV and that you have the skills and experience the employer is seeking. Once you are employed, your employer must provide you with information to help you settle into life in New Zealand and give you time to complete Employment New Zealand's online modules on employment rights while you are at work. The AEWV is designed to ensure only good employers can hire migrant workers and helps prevent migrant exploitation. More information about the AEWV is on our website.
Cool. You can take a screenshot of that, because that's basically the way, well, this is actually put together by Immigration New Zealand, how the job check, employer accreditation, job check and visa application process works. Good morning to you, Peter.
Hey, morning, Andrew. How are you keeping today?
Nice and chilly over there, because it's pretty bloody chilly in Johannesburg, I can tell you.
Yeah, winter's hit us as well. That's why I've got my hoodie on.
Yeah, I was speaking to somebody in Christchurch today. They said it's been raining for about a week, down in Christchurch. But anyway, so Peter Lim is our MD in New Zealand. Peter, the floor's yours as to what you do over there and how you do it.
Okay, thanks, Andrew. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the webinar. We, the New Zealand team, are the team that just do all things related to job search and relocation. That's purely our role, is to assist you in the job search training process and all things relocation. I'll get to that later, but the most important thing in New Zealand, as Andrew has said or will say, is that you need to have a job offer to get a work visa. And that is the first step in the whole process. And this is where we focused all our energy on from our New Zealand team side, is that we train you up on how to network and market in the New Zealand market whilst you're still sitting anywhere in the world. So in the good old days, you'd have to go to a function, hand out your business cards, talk to people. Here you can sit in your lounge having a beer if you want, and to go and just network with people, have meetings with people. So a whole job search process is a 4-step process we've developed, the 4 pillars we call it. So pillar 1 is what we take your LinkedIn profile and we search engine optimize your profile. It looks like a very professional profile. The second pillar then is we teach you how to connect at 5 different levels. Now those different levels are very important and people only connect normally at about 1 or 2 levels. We then go into the third pillar, which is then teaching you how to market and brand yourself in the New Zealand market, making people aware that you exist, that what your skills are. And then the fourth pillar, which I think sometimes is the most important pillar, is we teach you about the different interview techniques and the culture difference between New Zealand and other countries. And there's a massive difference between the culture in New Zealand and South Africa. And you need to understand this going into an interview, because you think you might be just going to what we call a coffee meeting, but it'll actually be an interview. And there's a reason for them inviting you for coffee meetings, not interviews, but you'll learn that in the culture side of things. That's on the job search side. On the relocation side, we send you tons of information on checklists before you leave South Africa, so you don't forget to do things, and then it's a nightmare sorting it out from the New Zealand side. We have pre-departure meetings with you where we teach you everything about which type of schools your children can go to, which schools how zoning works in schools. We teach you about the medical system. We teach you about budgeting. There's so many different things of what we teach you. And we have a pre-departure meeting, and we have an onshore arrival meeting with you as well. And if you're in Auckland, we have a face-to-face at our offices. So, and going through the competition, and we're the only company who actually makes all this effort to assist you in this whole process. So there is no other company who sits with hours and hours of training we do and personal attention that we sit with you. But the success rate of this whole process is actually phenomenal. Just to show you that after COVID, we still kept on training our clients through COVID and helping them and assisting. And as the borders opened in August in New Zealand, within 3 months, 160 of our clients had job offers. And this was through the training we did. Yes, some of them got their own jobs directly, immediately, because diesel mechanics, they can get a job relatively quickly. Developers, nurses, the medical staff can get jobs. But we still teach them how to connect to the right people, because you can go and get a job and it might not be with the best job you can get. There's government healthcare, and then there's private healthcare, and they're totally different systems that how it works, and your job types you can get there. But this process has been very successful. I've even had people, while we start training them, people start connecting with them, and within a week they have an interview and off they go. Some people don't. Some people have to go the hard yards and take longer, and you have to come onshore with your on a visitor's job search visa. And then we assist them on this side, working with recruiters who we have built up relationships with. But just one caveat is that we don't have a recruiter for every single job in the country, in the world. There's specific recruiters like diesel mechanics, motor mechanics, nurses. We've got built relationships, but not every single career do we have a recruiter. So it might not be that we have a recruiter that we can connect you with. The one thing that you can do if you're sort of really looking at this and seeing, wow, I first like to test the market. I'd first like to get my job before I go into, the visa side of things. We offer a separate package where we do the job search training and we train you up on getting networked and helping you arrange meetings and arrange coffee meetings and things. And if you want to do that process separately, I can quote you separately just to start on the job search process. And then if you see this as successful or you get a job and you then want to do the visa fees, we subtract the fees here for the job search off the fees that Andrew has quoted you to do the visa side of the fees. So it's not an extra cost on top. It is part of the package. If you sign up the full process, then ours is included in the whole process. But you can do it separately with us to see, is the market accepting you? Are you happy? Are you sort of getting, what's the word I'm looking for?
Value for money.
Value for money, firstly. Well, no, but there's interest in you and you in the market. Now, and the positive thing about this process, it's a very positive and upbuilding process because you are starting to meet people. People are starting to talk to you. You're getting reactions from people. Whilst job searching, just looking for jobs on Seek and Trade Me and Indeed, that is just incredibly negative process because all you get 85, 90, 95% of the time are rejection letters coming back. And it actually disheartens you in the whole process and you nearly want to give up. Well, our process is a very positive and upbuilding process. Yes, it has its hurdles. It's not perfect. You still do struggle sometimes, especially in the beginning. But as you get known in the market and you get your numbers of degree connections up, it's a very upbuilding and positive process. And that's why it's very important to use this process and not just apply for jobs. Very negative process. But you can start with our process first. Email me on peter@networkmigration.com. And I can quote you separately just for the job search and relocation training package. And there is a caveat at the bottom to state that if you want to go to the visa services, that will be subtracted off the amount that Andrew has quoted you. So, very successful process and many happy clients.
Absolutely. And just on that, I'm really noticing, a lot of my consults, and gosh, I'm doing 15 to 25 consults face-to-face a week, be it Zoom, Skype, Teams, whatever, with people from all over the world. But I'm noticing, Peter, that a lot of them are getting disheartened because they've started the job hunting and the job search process. And quite frankly, they're just not ready for it. They don't have their documents in order for a start. Okay. And when I say documents, I mean basic documents. So if they happen to fluke a job offer next week, they're not even ready to submit it. So you've got to be ready, not only mentally, which is what Peter's talking about, getting you mentally solid and structured and staying positive about looking. But ladies and gentlemen, you've got to be document ready as well. Otherwise, you're completely wasting your time. As Peter often mentions, New Zealand's not a big country. We have 5.5 million people, of which, 30% of the elderly anyway, the other probably 30% of the youth. You've probably got these statistics better than me, Peter. So you've got a very small workforce. And therefore, you're approaching companies. And if you've sent out 20 CVs in the wrong way, those 20 companies, they don't want to see you again because, they've already put your CV in the rubbish bin. And excuse me being blunt, but that's what we find. And you're going to get two people contacting you pretty much overnight, Peter, two separate families that I spoke to today, for example, that are using other agents. I mentioned it at the beginning of the webinar. And with no disrespect, I'm not going to comment on who they are. We all know who they are. But they're just not getting the service at all. And that what was insinuated and or promised. So hence the fact that we, as Peter's mentioned, all Peter's team does, and he does, is develop and continue to refine this job search process. Without the job offer, guys, you're going nowhere. So, if you're going to use an agent, clearly you can do this yourself. But if you're going to use an agent, or even if you don't want to use an agent, but you might just want to figure out how to approach the job market in the best way, then Peter charges separately. As he's already mentioned, he does a lot of job search training with people that don't use us in the end. He does a lot of job search training with people that end up using us because, of course, they find out after using us for that period of time, the confidence and the trust, etc. But you are going to get quite a few more in the next, I'd say, month to two, Peter, that are just going to contact you for the job training. I really mean it.
Okay, excellent. Thanks, Andrew.
Cool, guys. Okay, well, thank you, Peter. I mean, you've probably got a full day ahead of you, so I'm going to let you go. Have a fantastic rest of your day, and we're going to be finished in about 20 minutes, and whether you listen or not, it's up to you.
Okay, bye, everybody. Thank you.
I'll see you later. Cheers, bud. Bye. Right, guys, I was going to say that at the end, but, the lack of job preparation that people are doing when it comes to that, the biggest piece of this jigsaw puzzle, finding your own job in New Zealand, is astounding. Right. Getting a job offer is not points tested. It is based on you getting a job offer. Let's just jump through to here. At, depending on your occupational codes, a minimum salary of $29.66 an hour in most occupations. Some occupations, like very recently truck drivers, for example, ships masters, etc. Some occupations are exempt from hitting the $29.66 an hour in order to gain residency, but not many. So round it up in your head to $30 an hour if you're on an occupational code, which is a 1 to 3. And when you send me your CVs, I'll tell you what your occupational code is. Then the main applicant, and soon in 6 days to be the spouse as well, must earn $29.66 per hour in order for the visa, Immigration New Zealand to process the visa. If you're an occupational skill level 4 or 5, which are generally your lower skilled occupations when it comes to, with all due respect to a person that works in a shop, we need shop assistants. They're brilliant. We can't have life without them mostly. However, a shop assistant or a shop worker would be a lower ANSCO level, 4 or 5, or even 7 or 8, which means you've got to get a salary of 44, 40, 49 an hour. And with all due respect, that ain't going to happen, not to a shop assistant. So what New Zealand's done is it's effectively eliminating, shall we say, lower skilled workers from coming. They want skills, and they want skills based on either your qualification or your work experience. You don't need both. You might have both, but as with Australia, I mentioned that 99% of you are going to require a qualification. For New Zealand, you don't. You'll be assessed based on your work experience as well if you don't have the qualification. So it might be a combination of both. So just coming back to, so there's your work visa. You get a job offer at the relevant salary level. The company that's employing you would have already seen this on the slide I showed you after the talk by the New Zealand representative. The company that's employing you applies for a job token. They pay for this. It takes 10 days for the company to receive the job token. The job token is sent to you or your agent, and your agent then uploads all of your application into the job token, and the process from upload takes a maximum of 3 weeks. So from the moment you secure that very important job offer, the process to the work visa being granted takes 5 weeks total. Now, if you're a single individual, clearly you're single. But if you have a spouse and or children, if your children are between the ages of 5 to matric 19, they will be granted a student visa. If they're younger than 5, they're going to be granted a child visa linked to the main applicant, which will stay valid as long as the main applicant stays valid. If they're over 18 and matriced already, they're going to be granted a visitor's visa initially valid for 9 months. Now, with due respect to my next comment, I don't like this particular rule, but it is currently in effect. Whether it stays in effect after the October elections, we will wait and see. But at the moment, if you've already matriced, you're going to be granted a visitor's visa to go to New Zealand, which means you can go. And after the 9 months, we've always been able to get an extension for the child or the young adult. But you cannot work on that visitor's visa, and you cannot study unless you're paying international student rates. And that is what I believe should be changed. I believe that a child that once they've matriculated should be automatically, if the parents are in the process of getting residency, fair enough, but they should also be able to go to work. So I also believe that the child should be able to, to go to work, working, whether it's in professional or menial labor. Okay. In 6 days time, on the 31st of May, the Right Honourable Michael Wood, who's the current Minister of Immigration in New Zealand, has announced that this will come into effect. The spousal visas will be granted open. So technically, open visa means the spouse can do what he or she wants. However, as of the 1st of June, if the spouse must get a job offer with an accredited employer, there's over 15,000 of them, so that technically shouldn't be difficult, but the spouse must also earn $29.66 an hour. So if not, then let's say the spouse gets a job offer at less than that, you're in breach of your visa conditions. So when it comes to applying for residency, you're going to have a problem. Okay. So I will talk to you about this as and when I consult with you. Remember, all our consults are free. So when you're granted a work visa, it is valid for 3 years, unless you're getting a contract less than that, of course, but it's granted for 3 years. The main applicant's visa is linked to the company. The spouse gets an open visa, which in 6 days time means they've still got to get a job with an accredited company if they want to go to work. The children mostly will get student visas or visitors visas linked to, of course, the main applicant. All of those visas will be valid for 3 years. So from your work visa, you still get free schooling and healthcare. However, what is your pathway to residency? You actually have 3 or 4 of them. So let's come back to this. In July last year, New Zealand brought out the Green List. Green List Tier 1, Green List Tier 2. There's just over 80 occupations on Green List Tier 1. And if you're on Green List Tier 1 and you get a job offer that meets the requirements, you have a straight to residency pathway, which never happened before. In other words, you don't have to lodge your work visa. So you're saving those funds. So, for example, if you're a chemical engineer there, you've got to have the qualification. You can't just say, I've got a diploma or I've been a chemical engineer for 9 years, but haven't got the degree. Your qualification must marry up with your job offer that you're receiving in New Zealand. If that's the case, you would have to sit your English tests, which you don't need for the work visa. But if you're going straight to residency, you'll have to sit your English test unless you're exempt from an exempt country. Then, of course, we load the application. Sorry about that. Are you guys not using IT out there? Rose? Sorry about that, guys. I just want to double check that they're not using anything, any technology out there. Sorry, guys. Are you using any technology out there? You're not loaded on at all. Thank you. All right. So, guys, I don't know why it's buffeting. Maybe it's because we're load shedding or preparing to load shed. We're not actually. But anyway, so I'm sorry about that. But Green List Tier 1, get the job offer, meets the requirements, make sure you've set the English test if you're going Green List Tier 1. Then we lodge a residency application straight away. And you're processed, well, the last couple we did were processed in a week, less than a week actually. But the processing time on the INZ website is 8 weeks. But it's getting processed really quick. So that's going to save you a lot of money because you're not doing a work visa first. Okay? These were added in December to Green List Tier 1 as well. Midwives, doctors, auditors, and nurses. Took a while to add nurses to it. Don't know why, but it did. Green List Tier 2 is basically the old work to residence visa that used to come under the work to residence. It was called the work to residence. So you get the work visa, which is valid for 3 years. And after 2 years of working for the company, you can then lodge your residency application after 2 years. In this particular process, you don't necessarily need a skills assessment if you're on Green List Tier 2, so you're saving a bit of money there. You'll still have to sit your English test, though, if you're on Green List Tier 2. And these occupations were added in March to Green List Tier 2 as well. The other pathways to residency are if you're in IT, you actually have a couple of pathways to residency. If you're getting a job as an IT manager at $119,900, let's round it up to $120,000, and the job offer meets the requirements of the IT application process, and also, of course, your background meets those requirements, you have a pathway to residency as well from 2 years. And then if you are on a higher income, I'll come back to that, on double the median wage on $59.32, which is clearly double $29.66. In other words, if you're earning $123,385.60, you will have an automatic residency pathway after 2 years as well, as long as you've had 24 months of earning that particular salary, 2 years of earning that particular salary. Again, you'll need to sit the English tests, okay? Ronald, that question's not finished, mate. I don't understand how a civil... You didn't finish it. Okay. So let's just come back to here again. Where did we go? There. Right. Green list tier 1, green list tier 2 we've done. We've done green list tier 2 there. These are roles exempt from the accredited employer's median wage. In the care force, must be paid $26.16 or $26.69 in construction and infrastructure. You can see it all up there. Hopefully you're all taking photos or screenshots of all of this, and also in the hospitality and tourism industry, which is starting to really boom again in New Zealand because, of course, the borders opened last August. I can be on tier 1, but land survey technicians are not even considered for green list. No, they probably aren't, Ronald. And that's because if it's not on the green list and it doesn't meet the requirements, that's fine. But a civil technician or a surveyor, we've done a lot. And when I say a lot, probably 5 to 15 of them in the past. Remember, I've done 15,000 families, and I've never had anyone not get working with that background. So the key is getting the job offer and making sure you're prepped for it and ready for it, which, of course, is what Peter does and what the team does. And we do that from the get-go. So the other way to get residency is the skilled migrant category. Now, people have been sort of hearing rumors about this new 6-point process that the current Minister of Immigration, the Right Honourable Michael Wood, was talking about bringing in. He talked about bringing it in on the 1st of June, which is 7 days away. And I'd like to think that if he was going to make internationally drastic changes to the migration process, that at least us licensed immigration advisors would have been told about it and had legislation, a legislative instrument written on it straight away. And we haven't. So I do not believe this process will come in June. God, if I'm wrong, guys, I'll eat my hat. But it's 7 days away and we know nothing about it. Okay, it was semi-published last year. However, please don't panic. As long as you are prepared to work with your agent, even if you're in New Zealand at the moment and you're on your relevant visas, whatever, and the process has changed, it's not going to affect you. Okay, but we will let everybody know if there's going to be changes. I'll do a blog on it and we'll send out an email on it within 24 hours of those proposed changes. But let's be logical here. If he was going to do this, he would have done it already by now, if it was going to come in so soon. I'm of the opinion that it might, and I don't work for government, guys, but it might be stalled until the general elections. And then if there are any proposed changes, it will be pertinent and relevant to whichever government's in power at the time. Okay. Guys, for those of you who are buffeting and those who don't see anything, Ruan, I don't know if you're still there and if I'm buffeting to you guys, or of course, if Tia Marie or Liz, I'm still buffeting, but it's clearly been a bit of a problem. And in fact, if I may be blunt, in South Africa, everything's being a bit of a problem at the moment. This load shedding is killing us. Electrical goods are dying. Warranties are falling apart on things. Internets are just struggling to cope when everything boots up. It's just an absolute nightmare. And listen, people were immigrating before load shedding, so it's not the reason people are leaving, but it certainly is a little bit of a boost as to why people make a final decision. So, Sean, I'm all good my side. Thanks, Brendan. Thanks, Tia Marie. So it could be where you are, guys. It could be your towers. I mean, I just don't know. But that brings us to, of course, why you should see me. I mean, come and see me. It's free. Do a consult with me over Zoom, Skype, Teams, or Google Meet. And I will give you all the advice for free. You can go away and do it yourself after that. And let's just finish off by saying, of course, here's the points test. I hope you've taken a screenshot of that page, and also that page. the thing about the points test is I personally believe it's slightly too high. It was at 160, which meant that Auckland was a big, Auckland's where a quarter of your workforce is, because a quarter of your population lives in Auckland. And 180 is really hurting Auckland. It's really hurting us, even get skilled workers into Auckland. It's really hurting it, especially if you're more mature. So I'd like to think that 180 will be revisited, especially if, of course, this new proposed points test thing doesn't come in, and it comes down to a more realistic, 160 meant we could pretty much get people into anywhere in New Zealand. It didn't matter. Things to think about on here, of course, is the qualifications are there, but remember, you don't need them. You might be a motor mechanic for the last 15 years, but you never did a trade test. That's fine. As long as you've been a motor mechanic for 3 years, you'll qualify once you get the job offer. You might be in an ANZCO skill level 1 role, which means if you don't have a degree, you need 5 years experience. But I will let you know all this when I speak to you and when I talk to you. So contact me, give me the information. Remember, it's free. There's your age points. Remember, I said cutoff age is 56. Partner employment, there's offers there. You've taken screenshots of this page and, of course, this page, and I will tell you when I see you or when I send you your processes, all of these. I'm going to be outlining all of your options for residency. So if you have multiple options, I'm going to be telling you. You've got a green list tier 1 option and an SMC skilled migrant category option, and you've got a high income option. I'll put all that in the emails. My emails are not complicated. Okay, they're very simple. They're 1 to 2 pages long. I'm trying to make it simple for you guys to understand, because you're not in the migration game. That's what we are. Don't ask me to take a DB board apart, because I'm not an electrician. Okay, I will, get people involved around me that are able to do those. So thanks, Irene. So anyway, 4 potential residency pathways from your work visa. But remember, the critical thing is getting the job offer. So our processes, we've already talked about this. This is sort of our migration process countdown, if you like, for New Zealand specifically. Australia, we get your skills assessment done up front, your English test done up front. As I said, that takes somewhere between 2 to 4 months. Then we load the application. New Zealand is the first 2 months is document gathering and job search training. Ruan, that's the one I did forget to change. I wanted to shift job search training under document gathering. I'll do it tomorrow if you just remind me. Thanks, Ruan. Anyway, so we start the job search training with Peter immediately. Once you come on board in the first week, depending on his diary, of course, and his team's diary and Kim's diary over there. But Peter is your main source of contact when it comes to the job search training, and he'll be allocating other resources around you. Rose, who's in my kitchen at the moment because she's my wife, she's head of the relocation division. She'll be doing, of course, things like furniture and flights, meeting at airports. There she is. Meeting at airports, arranging everything from your LinkedIn profiles to introducing you to Peter and the job search team. And, of course, myself and my visa team will be doing all of your applications and processing. Guys, it's already 9 o'clock. I said we'd do it in 45 minutes. We didn't. It took us an hour again. I apologize. Thanks, Liz. Thanks, Irene. And listen, thanks to everybody tonight for listening. We had 230 people coming in and coming out and buffeting and non-buffeting. I apologize for that process. But clearly, if you do engage the services of Network Migration Services, we really look forward to working with you and taking this journey with you to either country. And if you don't, I wish you all the very, very best. And if you're not going to engage the services of an agent, at least talk to an agent that's going to give you the advice from A to Z on what to do, what it costs, how it works, and how you can succeed in doing this on your own. And then if you decide to use an agent after that, then so be it. So by seeing me, guys, it doesn't mean you're committing to us, okay? It means that I'm committing to you to give you all the information to walk away with. And then if you could do engage our services, well, we'd be excited and happy and proud to take this journey with you. And if not, we'd wish you all the very, very best anyway. So I'm going to say thank you very much to everybody. I'm going to end the broadcast now. Remember, send me the CVs. Give me the structures of your family as well. And or if it's a business visa or spousal or something different type of visa, just ask me and I will give you all the information on it. Once again, thank you to Ruan. Thank you to Peter. Thank you to Liz. Thank you to have I forgotten anyone? Tia Marie, etc. And thank you to all my team for always putting their heart and soul into their work. I'm so proud of you guys. I really am. And thank you for supporting our processes in helping people change their lives. Have a wonderful evening, everybody. Thanks so much. And I'm looking forward to dealing with you in the future, even if it's just to give you advice. Ciao, guys. Bye.